Things that I could see as a Cape Verdean in Southern California is we have exposed our culture to a community that didn't know we existed.
I didn't grow up in a Cape Verdean community. I was aware of my Cape Verdean roots, but never really celebrated it.
There wasn't enough information out there on Cape Verdeans. The Cape Verdean experience on the West Coast is less known.
Yes, we've been invisible. Yes, we're a small demographic. But throughout the centuries, we've always been connected through our network of kinship.
When you look at the history of Cape Verde, they were brought to the islands from the mainland as indentured servants or slaves.
The Cape Verde Islands had been experiencing recurrent drought, ensuing famine for decades. It was very difficult to survive.
I don't think that we are all readily embraced by Africans because we are still part European.
I really started to appreciate how bold our grandparents were to get in those little ships and come across the Atlantic to take a chance as to what was happening.
You have a slight accent. Where are you from? And I get that a lot. So I told her I'm from these tiny little islands off the west coast of Africa.
I'm a Cape Verdean in California, but I really became a Cape Verdean in California.
This is what my parents taught me, and this is what it means to be Cape Verdean.
Music has been kind of a unifying force, has kept us together. We have a very big tradition all around music.
I love to cook since I was a little girl. I always cooked with my mom. I was always in the kitchen, and it was always Cape Verdean foods.
We need to go deeper beyond the manifestations of culture and look deeply into our values, our beliefs.
Without controlling your history, without controlling your memory, you have no future.
Being Cape Verdean has really shaped my career path.
I knew the importance of roots. Once I learned my roots, I was able to survive. I was able to have meaning and purpose in my life. I was able to study harder. I was able to make it through Harvard in a place that at the time was hostile to people of color. I was able to be proud to be Cape Verdean.
Setting a standard for how our history is to be recorded, we'll find the Cape Verdean story, and we will be the ones who are going to be the architects of telling that story.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Crossing Bridges. You have just seen a trailer from a film called Cape Verdeans. I have the pleasure of having on my show today the writer and producer of that film, Mr. Mike Costa. You will find out more about Cape Verdeans, about its origin, about what has taken place since the Cape Verdeans who were under control of the Portuguese government, and much more about the film and the future plans for Mike Costa. At this time, it's my pleasure to welcome Mike to my show. Mike, good afternoon. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nat. Glad to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Yes.
The viewing audience had a chance to see your trailer. I've had a chance of seeing the whole film, and I'm very impressed with your writing and producing of this film. I, myself, was not really too much aware of Cape Verdeans till I saw the film. So what I want to do, first of all, before we get to that, I want the viewing audience to know a little bit about Mike Costa, who he is, where he came from, a little bit about your family background, and then we get into the film.
Well, my name is Mike Costa, and I'm proud to be Cape Verdean. I grew up in Massachusetts. That's my home state. And New England is home to a lot of Cape Verdeans because of the proximity where the Cape Verdeans are off the west coast of Africa. So I grew up in that Cape Cod area and played basketball, ran track. When I went to college, I went to the University of Nevada, Reno, played a little bit of basketball there, and where I studied broadcast journalism. And at the time when I went there, they let you do whatever you wanted to. I was producing, writing. I worked for the CBS affiliate. So it was a wonderful learning experience for me. Eventually, I made my way down to Southern California. And the first job that I got when I came here, I worked at NBC as a page.
Okay.
And my regular show was The Tonight Show, Cheers, and Taxi were my 3 shows. Carson was still doing the Tonight Show, so that was just like, you got to see everybody on the Tonight Show. And then from there, I got a technical job, because the thing about being a page, just like on 30 Rock, they have that character, the page. You only have the job for a year and a half, and then you kind of automatically get fired. So you have a year and a half to find a job or to impress somebody. You know, some people wanted to be actors, some wanted to be writers, some folks want to do on-air. I just wanted a job, so I got a job in network operations, and I ended up at ABC. I was there for 4 years. Then Cap Cities bought ABC, got laid off, didn't know what I was going to do. Then I got a job doing props. And then I got a job on a show. They were doing a pilot for a show, and they said, come on, come do this. And the show was Roseanne. So, of course, that was a huge success. But I still wanted to be a writer, but I was earning a living, which was great. You know, I worked for Karshi Warner, was the company. So I was on the crew, and I was on that show for 8 years, and then in the 9th year, Roseanne made me a writer.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, because they all knew I wanted to be a writer, and I had gotten accepted to, Bill Cosby had a writer program over at USC. And I got into the writers program, and so then I just parlayed that into, hey, Rosie, look, I got into this, so maybe, and she says, okay, give him a job. So I got a job. And it was amazing, because even to this day, you know, the grips and the props are like, nobody ever crosses over, because they're considered above the line and below the line. And that was very successful. I was there for 2 years. I went on to write on a number of other shows, Steve Harvey, Kirk Cameron, Gregory Hines, In the House with LL Cool J, developed various projects, was on member of the Writers Guild. So now I'm an independent producer, and you know, being part of the Cape Verdean community, there's actually 3 nonprofit organizations in the state of California, one in Los Angeles, one in Oakland, and one in Sacramento, that are pretty much dedicated to perpetuating Cape Verdean culture into the future, because we're such a small demographic.
Right.
You know, the Cape Verde Islands, they were discovered in the 1500s by the Portuguese. But basically, the key element here is that the Portuguese were pretty much the biggest slavers on the planet. And the Cape Verde, because of its geography right off the west coast of Africa, it was like a depot for slaves. So they would kidnap or abduct the Africans, bring them to Cape Verde, and then dispatch them to points around the world. So then naturally, you're going to have, you had, true Cape Verdeans are Afro-Portuguese. They are a mix of both cultures. You had Portuguese and Africans. So that's what both of my parents are Cape Verdean, so I'm 100% Cape Verde. So, you know, it was until 1975, Cape Verde was under the Portuguese rule. And then they got their independence. And Amelia Cabral, he's like our Martin Luther King. He helped us get our independence. He was assassinated I think in '76. But that's kind of the quick history of Cape Verde. So now Cape Verde, in modern day, they're considered a success story, because they're using tourism is like their big draw now. They actually refer to Cape Verde as like the African Riviera. It's like the Canary Islands. You know, they're an archipelago of 10 islands. And if even if you Google Cape Verde and do images, you'll see the most beautiful beaches, the most beautiful terrain in the world. It's really wonderful, and it's a very popular tourist destination for Europeans.
Right.
You know.
A lot of people migrated from Cape Verde to the United States and to other parts of the world. What is the population of existing people in Cape Verde, if you can tell?
Oh, it's about 300,000.
300,000.
There's more people outside of Cape Verde than there is in Cape Verde.
I see. And what was the reason that most of the people left Cape Verde to come to the United States or other parts of the world?
Oh, you know, it was the whole. Okay, when they were under Portuguese rule, there really wasn't anything. There was famine. The economy wasn't good. So they've just, like when my grandfather came over, he just wanted to get out of there so he could have a better life. And then, you know, after World War I, which was 1919, you could just come to the United States and you know, it wasn't like now. You could just, if you got here, you were in, you're a citizen. And, you know, with industrialization, you could get a job in a factory, or you could just be a plumber, or you could be a carpenter, and you could make a life for yourself.
Did the Portuguese government at that time make the Cape Verdeans to learn the language, their customs, traditions? What did they do with the people from that standpoint?
Well, what it is, the Cape Verde, the official language of Cape Verde right now is Portuguese.
Portuguese.
But Cape Verdeans, they speak Criollo. And Criollo is a combination of Portuguese and African dialect. And that's what the local people speak. Now, I unfortunately I only know a little bit of Criollo. My father was fluent, my grandfather, I could barely understand a word he was saying. But that's what it's called, Criollo. So that's what the language, right now it's Portuguese is the official language.
How about the schools? How they did teach in Portuguese or Criollo?
Or they taught in Portuguese. All the schools were taught in Portuguese. And like I said, since '75, they've only really gotten, I mean, they had schools, but now this is a thriving metropolis. So they even have there is a University of Cape Verde. They have film festivals. They have just, it's a wonderful place to be and to go. And yeah, if you haven't been to Cape Verde, you need to go.
So basically, Cape Verde right now and Cape Verdeans are independent right now then?
Yeah, they're an independent nation, yes, since 1975. And they totally identify with the African diaspora versus before 75, they identified with the Portuguese
And
diaspora.
whose jurisdiction are they with, governmental-wise? Their own or with?
They're their own. They're an independent country that identifies with the African, because they're only 300 miles off of the west coast of Africa, Senegal.
Okay. How are they governed? Do they have a governing body like?
Yeah, they have a president. They have a president. They have a prime minister. They're a democracy. You know, so they have things that are very similar to what we have here in the United States.
Now, I was really interested and amazed about your background in all the things you did in the TV industry.
Yeah.
And I have seen the film, and this film has a lot of potential because not only expands about Cape Verdeans, but it goes into the history of past, what's happening today, and where the Cape Verdeans are going. What is your purpose of making this film, Michael?
Well, you know, it really to shine a light on the Cape Verdean community in California, because the official name of the film is Proud to be Cape Verdean, a look at Cape Verdeans in the Golden State.
Right.
And because we're such a small demographic, but the thing is this, my film is viewed, you could be Russian, you could be German, you can be anything, and you could identify with my film, because it's the immigrant story, but it's just told from my point of view, or the Cape Verdean point of view.
Right.
So, you know, it really talks about the individuals when they first came to California. It talks about the nonprofit organizations that I was telling you about, and how we have scholarships. We actually send supplies back to Cape Verde. So that's what the purpose of the film, just so, you know, it's a tutorial. I had a lot of scholars help me. You know, I actually interviewed a lot of people back east. You know, I had somebody from Harvard who knew about the language. I had people from Boston University who knew about migration.
Right.
I also had people from San Francisco State, Bridgewater State University. So the purpose was really to shine a light on the Cape Verdean community and let people know, you know, we're here.
Well, I can see the credits that you're giving. There are tons of people basically involved, and some of them that you gave credit actually spoke in the film as far as their own point of view, historically wise, economic, social, every aspect of Cape Verde was included in that film.
Well, it's interesting with the credits, because what happened was, you know, when you're making a documentary or making a film, funding is very important. And unfortunately, I had a professional grant writer, but we really didn't get much love. So I had to produce this independently and do what I could. So one of the things that I did was we did fundraisers, and depending on your level of commitment, your name was in the credits.
Okay.
So if you donated X amount of dollars, you're an associate producer, X amount of dollars producer, X amount of dollars executive producer, or or sponsor. $500 or more, you were a sponsor. So it was very sweet, because then people were like, they were doing their mother's name or their grandmother's name, you know, because they knew that this would be something that would be forever, that people could go and look in this, you know. So that was very successful. All the Cape Verdeans came through big time on that one.
You have a number of very prominent Cape Verdeans who live in the United States who were in the film.
Yes.
Can you name a few of them, please?
Oh, Davy Lopes from the Dodgers. He's
Okay,
Cape Verdean, but
okay.
and he's from back east. Then we have Ken Montero. He's actually the Dean of Ethnic Studies at San Francisco State University.
Right.
Then you got Dana Moeller Faria. He's the president of Bridgewater State University. You got Cindy Barboza. She was an Olympic volleyball player.
Right.
She attended Stanford. Dwayne Durack, he is a Ramos. He's a prominent music producer. The Mendes brothers, John and Romero, they're world-renowned music producers. So, you know, those are just to name a few. Michael Beach, he's a real good guy, and I know his mother too, so when I called him up, he did the voiceover. Michael Beach, he was in Soul Food, he was in Third Watch. He's a very, very successful actor. And yeah, he's Cape Verdean, and he did my voiceover, and he came through big time for me.
Talking about volleyball, you're blessed to have two wonderful children,
Yes.
a son and a daughter.
Yes.
And your daughter is a star volleyball player on a scholarship at what university?
Well, she's going to be attending Northeastern University in fall of 2014. Right now, she's a senior at Westridge School for Girls in Pasadena.
And your son is a football player at Boston College?
He's a swimmer. My
Swimmer,
son, Joseph Cipriano, he's a swimmer at Boston College. He attended San Marino High School, but now he's a junior at Boston College, and he also works for Price Waterhouse.
Wonderful, wonderful. I know you just went recently to visit your son.
Yes,
in
I
Boston.
did. And then we also, it was whenever I can go back east, it's a double trip, because we actually had a big meeting. The Cape Verdean government, they had a business forum at Boston University because they're trying to entice American business people to do business in Cape Verde.
I see.
And so we had a big meeting over there. My business is show business, and I'm trying to get my next project off the ground, which is called Heart of Porto Novo, and it's a narrative, it's a film, it's a love story. It starts off in Massachusetts, but ends up in Cape Verde, and I'm coming at Cape Verde in a way to say, you know, if you're my partner in producing this film, it's going to help promote tourism in Cape Verde.
I have seen the beaches that you were talking about. They're beautiful. There could be a lot of great investors coming from all over the world and investing in Cape Verde for bringing tourists, bringing people. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, you know, it's a mixed blessing, because, you know, I guess you always run the risk of becoming like Hawaii. I don't know, because if you're a tourist and you go to Hawaii, I don't know. You know, when I've gone there, I see a couple of Hawaiians, but they're not like all over the place, and it's become more Americanized.
Right.
And then one thing about Cape Verde is I know the Europeans, they're buying up Cape Verde lock, stock, and barrel. And I know that that's something that Cape Verde does embrace, but it's a tricky balance, because they're building resorts. Some of these resorts are all-inclusive, which mean a lot of folks don't stray away from the resort, which doesn't really give back into the economy. But then on the other hand, there's just a lot of business and commerce going on in Cape Verde. So I'm very happy for this, and I hope that you know, next year you're interviewing me, because my film Heart of Porto Novo was filmed there.
What is the main economics in?
Oh boy, you know, I wish I knew. I know they do business on the Scudo. That is that's what and the BCA is their main bank. And I couldn't tell you what the GPA is, or what is it, gross product. I wouldn't be able to tell you those numbers.
Yeah, what products basically are they well known for?
Right now it's tourism.
Tourism.
Yeah, because they don't have anything. There's no mineral there that's valuable. You know, so it's tourism is their big thing. I know fishing, but fishing isn't something that they make money off of, but it's just something that a lot of people, Cape Verdeans, you know, a lot of Cape Verdeans, like even my grandfather and them, they had to they started off as fishermen because they could get a job on a boat and they were out of there, and once it set foot in America, boop, they jumped off the boat and they were here.
All the families here are in
I
the
still
United
have,
States? You still have?
my father's still alive, my mother's not, and my siblings, 2 sisters, they're in Massachusetts. So I'm 3rd generation. So my father and I took a trip some years back, and we still have family in Cape Verde. But then now, with Skype and telephone and computer, you know, the world became a smaller place. You can just, you know, get on Skype and talk to somebody in Cape Verde or talk to the government or whatever. A lot easier than back in the day.
Any of the Cape Verdeans who have come to the United States and have become prominent in certain type of field, business, science, technology, have they gone back basically to give back to Cape Verde or rebuild Cape Verde in that standpoint?
Yeah, there are some people who have gone back. I've heard of some doctors that have gone back, and I know there's a gentleman called Bob Barboza. He does a lot of work with the Cape, and he's a local person in Long Beach. He's with Kids Talk Radio, and he does a lot of business with them because he wants to try to educate the kids in Cape Verde about technology of communication, like broadcast journalism. But that is something, and then that was what the forum was about in BU. It wasn't just about tourism and economy. It was about, you know, because I'll tell you, one good thing that Cape Verdeans have is they've always been known as being hard workers.
I see.
And where my father and my grandfather, their currency was hard work, my currency is education. And because they've worked hard, now I can go to college, now my kids can go to college, and then they can become doctors and lawyers and things like that. And it's really off the sweat off of their back. So that's one thing that has changed from when my grandfather came in 1920, Grandpa came, to now. Hard work versus now it's education.
What is the highest level of education in Cape Verde?
You know, it's like a bachelor's.
Bachelor's.
Yeah, it's a bachelor's, and then, you know, because you're going to get the best education to travel abroad, you have to go to Europe. But a lot of them come to the United States.
So they have college, of course, in Cape Verde.
They have the University of Cape Verde.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, that University of Cape Verde. I think that's the only one that they have. But most people, I'll tell you right now, most people, they leave Cape Verde. If they're looking for an education or looking to do better themselves in the world, they leave Cape Verde. And they'll either go to Europe, they'll go to Portugal, come to the United States. And that's why you have a lot of Cape Verdeans on that eastern seaboard, especially in New England. In Massachusetts, you have, you know, you got Tufts, you got Harvard, BC, BU, Northeastern. You have all those schools, and you have a very big Cape Verdean community in Dorchester, and you got 1 million of Cape Verdeans, well, not a lot of Cape Verdeans in Brockton and in New Bedford. So, you know, right now that's kind of one of the mandates is to get these kids educations, you know, so that they can better themselves.
The film that, of course, we're talking about in Inception has a really tremendous potential, as I indicated, for people to get to know what Cape Verdeans are about. What is Cape Verde? And it's like someone want to go somewhere, watch the film. Not only you learn about history, but also you get the pleasure of hearing from these proud people who have come to the United States, established themselves, and are really inviting you to go back there and see the beautiful country that you came from or your parents came from. What is your intention beside what we talk about? How can the viewing audience, for example, work with you, support you in that area?
Well, first of all, I have a website. It's proudtobecapeverdean.com, and that's where you can go if you're going to get the DVD or you're going to see the, and I'm almost giving it away. And then you can also view the trailer, and it is an educational process. And right now, as we get into 2014, February will be a big month for me because it's Black History Month. And, you know, last year I was able to screen it at some universities. This year I hope to be able to screen it. I think we're going to screen it at Wellesley, Harvard, Chino State. Chino State contacted me, trying to get it at San Francisco State, UCLA, because this type of film is to the African diaspora is very popular, because a lot of people aren't that educated about it. And so now for me, well, you know, I had a pretty successful career as a writer in Hollywood, you know, I didn't get to really create any shows. I mean, I helped people, this and that. So now I've evolved I work for myself, my own production company, which is called Side Door Entertainment. So what better way Proud to be Cape Verdean was my first produced film under my shingle, and what better way to do it than to basically go home and do your film. I was able to, you know, I got to tell you, every person that I interviewed, all the souls that I met in California, it was wonderful. I go interview somebody and they'd have the whole family there and they'd make food. Oh, Mike Costa's coming to interview, and we'd have like kanja, that's like chicken soup, cachupa, that's like our stew. They got gufong, all these Cape Verdean foods and delicacies. So that was really a very good thing when I went around and interviewed people, because the film, it's a combination of testimonial, archival footage. We did some reenactments because we were able to identify Antonio Andrade and Maria dos Reis. Antonio came over from Cape Verde in 1916. And then he stopped back east, but he made his way to Sacramento, where he was able to get a job with the Union Pacific, because Sacramento has the biggest community in California because of the canneries, because of agriculture, and because of the railroads, because Cape Verdeans were just like anyone else. They followed the work.
I know that you're going to be successful, Michael, because your perseverance, your background, and so forth. And the viewing audience, when you get a chance, when this film comes out, Proud to be Cape Verdeans, please go see it, because it truly gives you a tremendous dimension about somewhere that you were not aware of. It's a cultural, it's delicious food, as Michael was talking about, and so much more that you are going to be enticed to go to Cape Verde and enjoy yourself. Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Nat.
It was a pleasure to have you.
It was a very pleasure to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in, and I wish you all a pleasant day. And remember, proud to be Cape Verdeans. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Nat.